So my name is Patricia Diaz, and I want to tell the story of my parents when they migrated to the United States. My mom is from Guanajuato, and my dad is from Durango. And they actually met here in the United States. My dad would actually travel to the United States with his dad, and they would work in the railroad, they would work in the fields, they would actually work wherever they could find some work. So he would do that, since he was a little boy, all the way up to his teenage years. And then when he was 17 years old, his dad passed away. And his mom had passed away when he was, I believe, like 3 years old. So he then decided to come to the United States and stay here permanently. And he already had family here. So he had family in Soledad, and that's where he stayed. And my mom also had family in Soledad. And so she came to the United States when she was, I think, about 18, around 18 or 17, around that age too. And, and the reason why they came here to the United States was because, my dad, he grew up in what's called in the mountains in Durango, and there just wasn't anything there for him. And he had already migrated. He already seen that this was the place to be for a better life. And for my mom, her parents didn't allow her to go to school. Plus, during that time, if she did want to go to school, she would have to purchase for her books and paper, and they just didn't have the money for that. So again, looking for a better life, they came here to the United States. They settled with family members that they had. They met in Soledad, and they had 4 kids, and I'm the 3 of the 4 kids. What I really remember growing up, though, is my dad just really saying, he was really proud of being here in the United States, and he really loved the country. And so that's really what I remember the most. And even though I remember experiencing, like, my parents, seeing just like how law enforcement would treat them and how other people would treat them if they didn't speak the English well, they never complained about it. And my dad, he's just very proud of this country. And he wanted us to make sure that we were proficient in English. And, while he was also proud of who he was and who he came from, he did feel the pressure about, okay, do we raise them just, with their first language being Spanish and just focusing on Spanish? Or do we raise them with English? This is the country we're in, and we want our kids to be happy and successful. And we know to be successful, they need to learn English. For us growing up, it's like we saw the importance of why it is that immigrants, need to be part of our society and welcome and integrated. But the perspective that I come from was really learning from my dad. And it gets really emotional. But he really taught us the importance of being compassionate, and that's what that's the stories that he would tell us. It's just like growing up where we grew up in Soledad is a rural area. We actually didn't grow up in the town. We grew up outside of the town, and so he would mention about how when he would drive into town, you had to cross this bridge, and there would workers, be passing by, and so he would mention, I would pull over and give them a ride. And during that times in the 1970s, there was movies and everything about hitchhikers. Everything was about hitchhikers. Like nowadays, everything's about vampires. Or during that time, it was all about hitchhikers. And so, and I remember thinking, but Dad, why are you doing that? Aren't you afraid something's gonna happen to you? And he's like, no, these are just my people. They're my folks. They need a ride. They don't have a car. And he's like, I know how it was because I was there. I was there. I had to do that. And so, it's about being compassionate and giving back to the community, and really seeing that, we're all, one. So I think, to me, it's just anytime I think about immigrants or I think about my parents, I always remember about does my dad, because my dad being really proud about the country, and my dad just really teaching us to be compassionate.
And what are you doing now?
Oh, what am I doing now? Well, I think because of that, you know, I'm the executive director of an immigration organization, and it services Immigrant Rights and Education Network.